Hey, man, what's up?
Hey, how's it going? This is Steve Jewin from MMA Mania. Thanks for taking some time for an interview today. I appreciate it.
No problem, man.
Got a big fight coming up ahead of you in the World Series Fighting quarterfinals. You're facing Brian Cobb. So how's everything going, getting ready for the quarterfinals of the tournament?
Good, man. Weight's on point, training's good. Mental games where it should be. So we're ready to go for next week.
That sounds fantastic. I know it's only a week away, exactly 1 week as of today. So when do you fly out of Montreal, head down here?
We're gonna fly out there on Tuesday.
Awesome. How's everything at the TriStar Gym in general? I mean, obviously you're training for your fight, but everybody's always got something going on there.
Yeah, it's a very active gym. We got a big team, and everyone's always doing something, like you said. So whether we're in camp or helping someone else for their camp, it's going on. So.
Last time I had a chance to chat with somebody in the camp, it was also for a World Series of Fighting fight. So it seems like there's a pretty good relationship between WSOF and TriStar right now.
Yeah, man, TriStar keeps good relationships with everyone, you know what I mean? So, but we're starting to build one with World Series now, especially now that I'm there. So, it's building up.
So speaking of that, how did your journey into World Series of Fighting progress? I mean, last I knew you were in Titan FC, so take me from there to here to being in World Series.
Yeah, it just kind of like, I had a couple misfortunes, in Titan, and I really needed a fight, and, didn't have a card in time, so I just, I started to shop around, and I found a fight with the World Series, and it became this big thing because of, the tournament and whatnot, and, it just materialized from that, so, and then I ended up, in this big tournament and all that fun.
What are your thoughts on the tournament format as a whole? I mean, you've been in a tournament in the Ultimate Fighter, so you've got some experience, but what about this tournament being all in one night?
This tournament, man, I've done the Ultimate Fighter, but this is, I think, it's more intense. I feel like a tournament really is, and especially at the level of World Series, I think this is the pinnacle, of the sport. I mean, it's just the whole process, right? I mean, you're going to get the first round, the guys who lose, the guys who are not, physically capable and technically capable, are going to get pushed out. And, that's all normal because it's how fighting is, but the second round, then it's the guys who are mentally on another level. You know what I mean? To be able to go back in there and get in there. So the first round's gonna pretty much show us, who the better fighters are technically, physically, who's superior athletically. Then in the second round, it's gonna be like, okay, who has the mental capacity to go back in and to perform and win? You know what I mean? And then the third round, it's like you're gonna see two lightweights in the third round that are, in my opinion, the top 10 lightweights in the world. You know what I mean? So I believe it really this is the pinnacle of fighting competition, in my opinion. That's how I look at it.
Well, you definitely have to be top 10 in the world, not just to advance all the way through the tournament and win it, but to face a guy like Justin Gaethje, because the winner gets a title shot, and he's definitely top 10 in the world. Yeah,
for sure. I truly believe outside of the UFC, I believe I'm top 3 in the world. I have a title that I'm holding. Gaethje has one and Will Brooks has one. I think those are the two biggest promotions. So I can't, put myself ahead of guys who have a title. It's just not, it wouldn't be fair. But I believe I'm up there with those two guys. Outside of the UFC, I don't see anybody else that's going to be able to give me a challenge. And, when I was in the UFC, my last loss was to the number 8 guy in the world. And it was a close decision to jury. So I know where I'm at, and I feel like it's going to even show in this tournament. You'll see me in that cage 3 times next week, that's for sure.
Well, going back to that jury fight, I was curious about it. You already mentioned it was a close fight. It was a split decision, and you were fighting in Canada. So when that decision came back, I'm like, wow, there's no such thing as a hometown favorite with these judges.
Hey, look, it played out the way it played out, right? There's nothing really I could say. It is what it is, but I moved on, and I showed that I grew from it. My fights in Titan were technically sound. They were, perfect in my opinion. And I showed, I learned from that fight, so.
Oh yeah, the George Gurgel fight in particular, that only lasted 4 minutes, so you just went in there and just blazed through him like, I'm here to prove a point.
Yeah, I was upset that fight, man. I just really wanted to just brutalize that dude, so I had a lot of anger in me, and I just came out and I really, really, really just wanted to crush him. The Soteropoulos fight, I was a little more level-headed, I was a little more settled, and after I beat him around a bit in the first round and, kicked his head around a little bit, I was like, I got back to my corner. I was like, hey, coach, we're going to have a fun time tonight. We're going to play with this dude for a few rounds. And I just kind of tried him, So yeah, those 2 fights were good, man. They, were really what I needed after, my whole UFC experience.
Yeah, and of course the irony there being that they were both former UFC guys themselves.
Yeah, that's right, they were.
Brian Cobb, other than World Series, where do you rate him
No,
as an
he fought
opponent?
in the UFC. I think he fought Terry Edom, I'm pretty sure. I honestly, man, I don't really know. I check out the guys that fight, like, at the beginning, and then after that, I kind of just, I kind of chill after.
Right, so do you believe in watching film on fighters then, or is that not really your thing?
I do at the beginning. I think it's important, but after the beginning, I kind of just, I let it be the way, whatever. Let it play out how it plays out.
Yeah, and you're right. I confirmed it with Sherdog. He was on the UFC 95 card. So yeah, he fought Terry Edom. His only UFC fight. So you've got a little more UFC experience than he does.
Yeah. Yeah, look, you could say that. I got the 7 fights with the UFC if you include Tough, So I've had a fair share in there.
What do you think of what Tough's become since your time on there? It doesn't seem like it has the momentum that it used to.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like the same thing over and over again, you know what I mean? So you got to change the format up or people are going to get bored.
Yeah. Well, I think they tried with this whole, we're bringing one guy back who lost in the opening round, but I don't know if that's really going to be enough to draw in casual viewers.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't think so.
So, as far as the tournament format with World Series fighting goes, I know that elbows are being disallowed in the quarterfinals and the semifinals. Do you think that's a benefit or a hindrance?
That's a hindrance for me. I really, really enjoy using my elbows. I think, to be honest with you, I'm one of the best in the world at using them, standing or on the ground. It's a bit of a hindrance for me, but whatever. Everyone's got to follow the same rules, so.
Now, you mentioned that the early rounds could weed out the people who aren't tough enough and skilled enough to make it all the way to the finals and be one of the top guys in the world, but there's a rule that changes that dynamic because a loser can actually advance if the winner is medically disqualified. Does that present... Yeah, Go ahead.
It's crazy, right? I mean, you can't really say who's going to win. I hear some of these fighters, I listen to their interviews, I like to listen to my opponents. I really feel like when you listen to their voice and then you hear the things they say, you can really pick up on a lot of things, And I listen to them talking about, like, being the favorite and all this bullshit. It's like, none of that really matters, you know what I mean? Anyone I hear talking in this tournament about what they're expecting, I know right away they're in trouble. Because you can't really expect anything, You can go in and win a fight, and like you said, because of an injury, you can't continue. You really don't know what's gonna happen, and that's been part of my mental prep, Just like learning how to let go and learning how to accept, whatever's happening and move forward, right? If you're expecting something and something else happens, it could really mess with your mind. And once this thing kicks off, man, once it's like, you know what I mean? Like it's going and like it's everything is happening and the sweat's flying and the blood is flying and there's in and out of the back rooms and in the cage and it's just like, it's all fucking hell's breaking loose. Like, I think like, it's really gonna take the guy who mentally prepped, who's gonna get through it all. But even at that, like you said, you can get injured, right? So we don't know who's gonna be in the final. It could be some replacement. They have replacements on standby,
right.
Which I don't think which was kind of a little bit messed up. I mean, because let's say, like, look, they built the format that all the big money is at the end, right? You got your first 2 fights, which are good money, and then at the end, you got the big payday. Like, you can have some bum sitting on the sideline waiting, and then everybody's injured, everyone's hurt, and then you got one guy left, and then all of a sudden, like, okay, yeah, you can go in there. It doesn't really make sense to me. I think once you get to the finals, the other guy can't advance, and the other guy should just win by default,
Right. Maybe there should only be reserves in the quarterfinal round or semifinal, not beyond that.
Yeah, and it's a little bit, unfair, but I mean, that's what it is, man. That's the night, that's what's going to be taking place. So I take it how it can come, and even like at the first sound of it, like, oh, you're going to fight 3 times in one night, like, that's fucking crazy, like, that's so whatever, but it's not really. To be honest with you, I wish I had that format every time I fought. Because let's say I fight and I win, and I'm good to go. Like, shit, let's go again. Let's have another fight. You know what I mean? Let's get another paycheck, get some more experience. And if you can't continue, well, hey, listen, man, I can't continue. You know, so there's no more risk than a regular fight, in my opinion.
Right.
It's just more opportunity.
Plus,
that's how I look at it.
There's some guys that also, when they have a long time between fights, they get out of shape, they're not ready, they're not mentally focused. So having fights in a short time span, we've seen it pay off for guys that actually coming back in a few weeks or same night can be better.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
I always like to know what a fighter does, to keep their weight on point, because everybody's trying to come in as big and as strong as they can, but you got to meet that weight limit at the same time. So what's your secret?
Yeah, I usually cut from about 171 down to 155 in the week of the fight. So I usually do about a 15, 16 pound weight cut, but I'm only about 12 pounds off right now. I wanted to keep the weight cut a little bit smaller considering that the night's going to be longer. So that's how I went about it. But guys, I mean, they'll always, they'll do however they want to do it. But for me, I'm thinking a smaller cut would probably be beneficial.
You don't want to be exhausted from trying to make that cut and then have 3 or 4 fights. That's not the way to go.
Yeah, definitely.
What about the diet, though? What do you like to eat to stay in that weight range and be healthy for the fight?
Well, at this point now, like this week, for example, like all my carbs are obviously in the morning, like my fruits and my oats and all this stuff. Like it's all in the morning. After that, it's all greens and lean proteins and stuff like that, high fats, avocados, fish oil, and stuff like that. So it's not really any big secret, just heavy, just stock up on the carbs in the morning, and then after that, cut it out. So that's usually what I'm doing. Also, stop eating before like it gets too late, Stop eating around like 6, 7 o'clock, and that does the trick as well.
Because late at night, your body's just going to store all that, as fat anyway. It's not going to be able to burn those calories late at night.
Exactly.
Sounds like everything's on point then. Weight's on point, diet's on point, training's on point. So I guess the only other thing I can ask you then is, what's the biggest difference since the last time we saw you against George Soteropoulos? What's going to be the most changed when we see you in a week?
Honestly, man, my game has just become a lot more refined, and I find like I'm switching up my style on the fly a lot more, you know what I mean? Like, if I'm targeting something specific, if I want to wrestle, if I want to kick, or if I want to punch, or whichever, if I want to bring the fight closer or further from the fence, like, I just find I'm transitioning from one idea and from one goal or one form of intention to another, and, I'm doing it with more ease and more flow, I mean, obviously I've gotten better over the year that I've had off, like, I got promoted in jiu-jitsu, like, I got my brown belt and all that stuff. But other than that, I've helped countless guys with their training camps over the last year, and from Rory, Cajun Johnson, Chad Laprise, Joe Duffy, Tom Breeze. I've been in all these guys' training camps, so I've been getting better, man. And that's about it. I think that the year off actually is going to be a good thing, considering I have such a big night. A lot of people are like, oh man, you haven't fought in a year and 2 months. It's like, man, all the top guys fight once a year anyway. Like, you don't ever hear anyone talking about them being rusty. You know what I mean? It's like, how did I get rusty? It hasn't been 5, 6 years. Like, chill out.
No, I don't think anybody was complaining when GSP only had 1 or 2 fights a year. Everybody still called him the best fighter on the planet.
Exactly. So, I mean, really, I'm not too worried.
No, you shouldn't be. And since you mentioned Rory, it's been a while since we saw that war he had in the cage. What's the timetable for him to come back?
I think he's looking to come back around February. I think he's going to be fighting Hector, I think.
Well, hopefully that fight takes place, because if he does, I'm sure Rory will have a really fun fight with him.
I think so too, man. I think that's a really great fight for him.
Yeah, he's 1 in a million. I say that about everybody at TriStar. Everybody there is a top-notch athlete, and you're one of them. So I'm looking forward to a fantastic run for you in the World Series Fighting Tournament coming up in a week.
Thanks so much, man.
I appreciate it. Thanks for the time today.